Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. So my question to you today is, do you feel like you love to be in an industry that is male-dominated for the most part, or that you're trying to figure out how to better communicate in the environment that you're in? Well, today is your day because Brittany Hansen is a mom, she's a business owner, and she is just thriving where she's at. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brittany.
Good morning. I am so thrilled to be here today and just to talk to other mompreneurs. I have been on this road with my co-founder for about 7-8 years now, and it's a crazy road. So I'm just excited to share, and hopefully some of the things I've learned can be helpful to someone else.
So why don't you tell us what you do, and then we can take it from there.
You bet. So I am the Chief Discovery Officer at a tech company. And what that means is that I am in charge of all of our external voicing, all of our marketing comes through me. I'm the final say in all of that. I manage all of our overseas accounts. So there's times when I do a lot of traveling, and any new verticals that come up in our company, anything that requires research, that's all me. So it's very exciting. It sounds like Indiana Jones, like when you hear Chief Discovery Officer, but it's a lot more research and relationships than anything else.
So how did you get together with your partner? Because a lot of times people just start out on their own, and then partnership can be very scary. So how did that come about?
Absolutely, it can be. And ours is particularly scary because we're family. My co-founder is my sister-in-law. Okay. And we went into this with a very real understanding that if we didn't do it just right, we would lose each other in the process. And so we decided very early on that if it was between us or the business, it was us, and one of us would walk away from the business. And instead of having it be a total nightmare, we have just gained an even deeper love for each other. She is my best friend. We've had to help each other grow through a lot. We've had to have a lot of grace and be patient with each other, but it has been amazing.
That is great. So with this tech industry, did you have prior experience in it, or is it something that you said, hey, there's a need here, so let's go for it?
It was that there's a need here. We were walking through a zoo and saw a family who spoke a different language, trying to have the same experience as all the English speakers at the zoo. And we're like, there's got to be an easy way to fix that out there, isn't there? And as we looked into it, there really wasn't. And as we got further into the problem, we realized that even when there's English resources available with businesses don't do a great job of communicating with their consumers. They're doing really a poor job of it. So we saw a need and we decided to fill it. My background, I started college in psychology, and I ended up getting my degree in marketing. She is a process engineer, really. She's got her master's degree in communications. And so we just decided to get into this together and tackle a problem. It was, if you had told me 10 years ago I would end up in tech, I would have laughed at you. So it's been an adventure.
See, I love that, because even though you didn't have degrees in what you're doing, it helps you. It always does help you. And so it doesn't matter, because I mean, I could go on about college, but it really does help because it transfers into a whole bunch of different things. So let's talk about the communication. Is it a good or a bad thing? And what happens if we don't have it?
So in my opinion, globally right now, there's a problem with communication. And AI, which is a wonderful tool, has made it worse because we now can't trust our own eyes and ears, right? So in the ways that we used to gather information, we know we can't trust. We don't know where to go for good information. And even when we know where to go for that information, sometimes businesses don't know how to deliver it. And worse, sometimes they purposely don't deliver it, right? So, and then we're seeing that in broad scope. Instagram is about delivering a very curated version of yourself, right? Even LinkedIn is about delivering a curated version of yourselves. And so we're like, how do we know what to trust? And instead of asking probing questions, most of us just get really, really angry, and we just stop trusting everyone and become very, very cynical. And it's making the world a dark place. So we need platforms where people can be honest, where it's met with honest and constructive feedback. And then we allow people to level up by telling them what we want from them and then rewarding them with business or friendship relationships based on the information that they share with us.
100% agree with that. That's why this book right here is why I wrote it, because I feel like, I mean, if you were to transfer that into marriage, it's the same type of thing. People are not communicating. And so, like, oh, let's get married. And you don't want to ask the hard questions because you feel like they're going to get mad at you or they're going to break up with you. So you marry them. Well, you're going to still have to answer the hard questions. So wouldn't that be better before? And it's the same in business. It's just, I love that you talk about that because I 100% agree. It's the probing questions. It's what you try to figure out so that you can get to the bottom. For example, I had a client just this week that I listed a house and they were unrepresented buyers. And so they called asking tons of questions. I had a great conversation. I'm out of town. And I said, hey, I'll call you back. And they're like, okay. So I called them back. We're talking still like, they're like, okay, we're going to talk about it. I'll call you right back. It was like 45 minutes later. All of a sudden they had contacted my seller, like trying to go back doors. So I call and it's like completely different situation and story, like awkward. And I'm like, what happened between then and now? And so it was that they were just going to write their offer and they didn't need my help and they didn't want to tell me that. Right. So I just sent them, which I hate texting, but I knew they weren't going to answer the phone. So I just said, hey, the first conversation to the second was drastically different. I don't want there to be any awkwardness. I'm just here to help. And then all of a sudden it was able, like I said a little more, but I was able to turn it around, put their concerns at ease. And then they're like, oh yeah, we do want you to represent us. So you have to be willing to ask those hard questions and like, okay, this is awkward. What's going on? I'm just here to help you. So if you don't use me, that's fine. And then they're having me list their house. So it's like, whoop, whoop. But
I love that. Props to you for addressing it with curiosity instead of anger. Because the first thing, like as humans, something goes different than we thought it would, or it doesn't make sense to us. And we get frustrated or anxiety filled and we don't respond with curiosity. Real curiosity is such a conversation sparker. Way to go. That's amazing. I love that.
well, it like makes you sick to your stomach because you're like, did I do something? Did I say something? And then I'm going to worry about it the whole plane ride home. Like, no, I can't handle that. Just throw the elephant in the room and let's address it. And so I think that people are afraid of hurting other people's feelings instead of just, hey, let's just have a conversation. And everyone's entitled to their opinion and, don't get upset about it. I love that you have addressed that. So tell me exactly like what your company does, because you mentioned the zoo and different languages.
Yeah. So what Viiision is a platform that we built that allows for essentially a reverse funnel for sales or for any company, but we really specialize in specialized products, tourism, public information campaigns. So that's why you heard me talk about the zoo. Anytime that there's mass information that needs to be delivered in a more specific way, in a way that allows people to move through in a protected way, safe from competitors, so you don't have to worry about that. And one of the things that makes us most proud is that we can deliver that content seamlessly in the home language of the user's phone. They don't have to request something else. They don't have to go searching for anything. They don't have to feed it through Google Translate. It just pops up in the language of their phone. Because anytime there's friction in communication, you get difficulties. So it's really about our platform. And then we help businesses distribute that information through QR code, through link. We can do it through Beacon, but just on their phones, because we're all on our phones all day anyway. So that's the easiest way to communicate with people. But by doing it with a QR code or a link, you're allowing them to converse with you in the moments that they want to, rather than forcing your attention on them with the other 10,000 ads they see during the day.
How did you acquire your clients when you got started versus what you do now?
When we very first started, it was all relationship based. So we actually went back to that zoo that we'd had that experience at and said, hey, we love your zoo. It's the cutest little zoo in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Teeny, teeny, tiny. But they have 70% of their animals are part of a conservation effort. So they're like this powerhouse zoo in the middle of nowhere, Idaho. And we said, don't you think other people should have access to this information? What if? And they were like, yeah, come in and let's do this. And then it turned into something bigger where they were able to use our software to change the way people behaved. We have proven for them, they wanted to talk about earth efforts that people could make that felt accessible and made people the hero. We have been able to prove that there was a 30% change in habits of the people who went there, who were on our platform. They changed their minds. They changed the way they operated, even if it was something as small as reusing shopping bags or not using a plastic straw or turning their car off and not letting it idle, turning the water off when they brush their teeth, but they change their behaviors.
Wow.
People will, when they have the best information, they trust you, they will change their behaviors, understand. It's amazing what information can do.
That is so cool. So are you still doing word of mouth, or are you doing some advertising now as well?
We do some advertising. We do a lot with the United States Commerce. So we have been on one trade mission already. We were the very first women in tech trade mission the United States ever did. We were on that trade mission. We're leaving for another one next week where we'll be in Brazil and Argentina. So that's one of our favorite ways to do business. And we definitely have a very small sales force. But one of our best ways really to sell our product is we like to team up with other people who have really unique things. Right now, we're working with an amazing nonprofit company called Justice U, who delivers training on how to prevent human trafficking. And we've partnered with them to display that training inside of hospitals for healthcare workers, so that, because they're a front line of defense for human trafficking. I don't know if you know this, 90% of human trafficking survivors are seen by healthcare workers during the time that they're being trafficked, and less than 1% are ever spotted. So we can enable healthcare workers to stop this problem using our platform, and they can give information to potential survivors in the moment in their language and make sure they know how to get help, or that they are aware they're being trafficked, because sometimes they've been so brainwashed they don't know. We love strategic partnerships because there's nothing cooler than when you can enable someone else to achieve their mission.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that one is near and dear. I have a family member that he almost every other weekend he's deployed to go, and he has saved thousands of girls. And it's never talked about in the news. It's like all undercover stuff. And if people really knew how serious and how big that is, and most of the people are American that are doing it to these children. So it's unfortunate. So I love that you guys are doing that. You are changing lives so dramatically.
That's what we're hoping for. And thank you for sharing that. It touches people in more ways than we think. 50 million souls worldwide at any given time.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. But we can do something.
There's a Grey's Anatomy episode about that. Like one of the guys, I don't know, it was a long time ago, but he had spotted it, tried to tell everyone, and they all called him a liar. He just wasn't believed. And then it came out in the end that it's just, we don't know. There needs to be more awareness. And so I love that you guys are teaching that. So let's switch gears for a second, and let's talk about being a mom and juggling all of this. So when you started your business, I mean, it was, you said 7 or 8 years ago. So how was that with being a mom? Did you work at home? Did you actually have a company where you went to every day? How was that?
So my story is probably not all that unique. I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years. I have my 2 oldest children are special needs. They're on the autism spectrum and they're twice exceptional. So I was full-time mom for 13 years and did nothing else. And as our kids got older and much more, self-driving, there was a little room for me to explore. When my co-founder, Andrea, and I started this business, she was wonderful to let me work only as often as I could. So in the very beginning, for about the first 9 months, I only worked in the mornings when my baby was at kindergarten. And then she really got fully going to school, and I realized I had more time and I was able to more fully engage with the business and really flourish here. But it was hard. Um, there was a lot of guilt there. There was a lot of learning to rebalance my life. Like maybe my house wasn't going to look like it had always looked before. And like, what are actually my top priorities? Does it need to be home cooked meals every night, or is it enough that we just eat together? Is it? And then for me, it was finding ways to pull my children in so that this wasn't mom's job. This is something our family is accomplishing together. And it's been done in the like most fun sort of organic ways. The other day I was editing our podcast, and my son, who is into sound engineering, came upstairs and saw sound waves on my computer, and he was like, Mom, what are you doing? I said, I'm editing our podcast. I didn't know you know how to do things like this. I was like, I do. And he was asking me about some of the lines. I was explaining it to him. He's like, you know more than I do. And I said, well, do you want to sit down and do this with me? And he said, well, is that okay? And I said, yeah, come do this with me. It's almost summer. I could teach you. You could intern with me over the summer. And he goes, Mom, I would do that for free. And so all of a sudden, my 17-year-old thinks I'm super cool. Mm-hmm. And I would not have had that win otherwise, right? And you don't have to be the cool parent, but I love that he gets ownership over something I'm doing. I'll ask my kids their opinion on a pitch deck, and I have a coworker who does that as well. I bring them into work sometimes. I ask them what they think about things. And so it's a family endeavor, and they're getting to learn along with me. So it's not just my learning curve. It's my whole family. And it in that way, it's been a gift for us. And they understand then when on rare occasion, mom is out of the country and can't attend a track meet, right? And that's okay, because it's a sacrifice we're making as a family for the learning that we're getting as a family.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that you have to talk about it and talk about what you do and see. There's a lot of things that in my businesses, some of my kids, they love to help with. And there's other things they're like, no, we don't want to do that.
Right.
Like going and cleaning up a yard. Well, it's just sometimes we do. I think it's important that our kids see what we do, so that if they're home and they're just playing a game or they're playing around while mom is everywhere, it's like, hey, how about you come help? Oh, okay. And yes. I think at times they're like, oh, but at the same time, it's like, you need to understand the sacrifice. And I don't know what I'm going to say this correctly, but what we do to make sure that we can then go play, right? Mm-hmm. It does not grow on trees. And so we need to make sure that we know that with work comes reward.
Yeah, so. Just work ethics, right? To be like, it actually feels really good to do a good job and know you did a good job. Mm-hmm. That's so. Do you mind if I ask how old your kids are?
Oh, they range from 25 to 10. So I have 6.
That's a good spread. That's a good spread.
And as you think that you get them out, then they'll come back, or they'll bring all their belongings here because they're in between places. And then it's like, oh, wow, we have a lot more. The whole basement's now full. So it keeps you busy, but it's fun. And I think my older 3, they grew up when I was running colleges and doing things. So they loved coming to those schools. But my last 3, they've seen the entrepreneur side. And so it's very different. And so they also understand, do I really want to go get a job here making $10 or $12 an hour, or can I do my own business and make, more?
Yeah. What a cool thing to teach your kids. Mm-hmm. I really love that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to ask a question about that. So if you're sitting on a park bench and a 9-month pregnant woman comes and sits next to you, her first baby, and you watch her, sit down in an uncomfortable way, and you get talking, what is one piece of advice that you would give her? And it could be about anything, but about motherhood at any stage.
For me, and my oldest is graduating from high school this year and turning 19. People aren't lying when they say it will go really fast.
Yeah.
It feels like a lie when they're little and you're changing so many diapers and you're so tired. And but it does. And all of a sudden you look back and you're like, whoa, I remember when it was just me and you, and now you're a full grown adult. And the other thing is, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but don't be afraid to lose yourself in it. Mm-hmm. There was a time where I realized I'd really lost myself in being a mom. but there's a way back to who you are as an individual, always. Don't be afraid to lose yourself in being a mom, because the things that you will learn and the love that you will feel and the things that you will accomplish with that little person mean more than anything else you could do. And then you'll find yourself again, and you'll find new and amazing ways, and you'll partner with your child, and you'll partner with your life partner or whoever you have to build you into something you never would have been before. It is a sacrifice. It's also an extraordinary opportunity that nothing else in life could give you. So go ahead and lose yourself, and don't be afraid of it.
I love that. And I think, and I'm probably going to say something controversial. And so for the people listening that don't have children, um, it's very interesting because I remember when I first tried to have kids, we couldn't. It was like a year and a half and tons of fertility drugs. And I remember going through that, just the emotional roller coaster. And, there's a time and a season, and I get that. But it's hard to hear sometimes when everyone's getting pregnant around you and you can't.
Good.
You begin to not hate them, but hate them. I don't even like that word, but it was hard, and it was frustrating, it was angering, and all those emotions. And then once you have them, it's just interesting to watch people who they don't have kids. And unfortunately, this day and age, there's a lot of young couples that don't want kids. And I'm like, you're missing out on so much because they enrich your life. They bring you to be a different person that is undescribable. And I think that that's the part, is that because you're sacrificing, everything is for them at that point. And so I think that it's hard to embrace it at the time. And I talk a lot, and I have a lot of people on and guests that talk about like what you talked about. And it goes by so fast. But in the moment, it's hard when you're a mom and when you're a businesswoman and that you're like, I need to spend time with them. And it is so important. You have to. And I love that you talk about losing yourself in the moments and as a mom. That's great advice.
Thank you. And thank you for being so vulnerable with me. I want you to know I fully empathize with that. We lost two babies back to back and then couldn't get pregnant for a year. And I couldn't, you don't understand what's going on. And in the meantime, my sister, who did not want another baby and was not trying to get pregnant, got pregnant. And you don't hate them, but you hurt. It's so hard. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable with me. I appreciate that.
I love that word because no, I don't hate anybody, but I don't want to say you're jealous, but hurting is a good word. And acknowledging that, and especially when you have lost a child, if anyone's ever had a miscarriage, it's you never get to hold them. Yeah, or be able to look in their eyes as they're breathing. That's a tough thing that is just not talked about very much either, I think. So, yeah, very, very difficult. So we'll switch because then we'll just start crying. But if listeners wanted to get a hold of you, they're thinking, you know what, my business could really use that, or I'd like to be a strategic partner. How would they find you?
I am on LinkedIn. I think it's Brittany A. Hansen. I will send you the link. You can also find us at viiiision.com, but it's Viiii. There are three I's. And please do reach out. Even if you just want to visit about possibilities or communication, we would love to talk to you. My co-founder and I are also speakers, so please, we're very open, very friendly people. We'll never make you feel bad, even if you just want a little free advice. So please do reach out.
I love that. Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, what do the three I's mean? Is there a meaning behind that?
So it's really about giving businesses the third eye into their consumers. Um, and we've played with different things about using the eyes for inclusion and insight. But what it really comes down to is giving analytics and intelligence in places that traditionally have been black holes for companies. So
I always like the meaning behind it. So thank you. All right. Well, Unbreakable Mompreneurs, I hope that you have taken some golden nuggets because, first of all, the idea is amazing that you have done, and the communication is so important to be able to do. And so thank you so much for being on, Brittany.
thank you for having me.
And moms, go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.